Politics, which one is which when it comes to this particular process? When you ask members of parliament and the National Assembly, they say this impeachment process was actually a political process. Well, right now we are in the corridors of justice with different grounds being put forward as far as this case is concerned to try and see whether the deputy president, that is Rigathi Gachagua, has a fighting chance on this particular matter. We also do have a deputy president-elect, that is Kithure Kindiki, according to Speaker of the National Assembly, that is Moses Wetangula. And at this particular moment, he is also in the corridors of justice with his swearing in having been stopped by different petitioners who say he should not ascend to office until the matters that have been presented before the judges are heard and determined. That will be forming the basis of a conversation. I'll be having a panel here to try and see and dissect on which direction the nation is supposed to be taking as far as the judicial process is concerned, and also political matters. Start engaging us on our socials at K24 TV across social media platforms. Atamoy Brian, that is on X, will be sampling your feedback as we continue with the program this particular morning. But before we do that, I do want to take you through some of the news making headlines today and also what you're waking up to as far as the newspapers are concerned. And of course, the issue to do with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua taking center stage as far as current affairs are concerned. But first, let's take a look at what you're waking up to on Matters News. Now, impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua could remain in office longer as his legal team is now challenging the empanelment of a three-judge bench by Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu instead of Chief Justice Martha Koome. Gachagua, who was present in court, also sought and got clarity that the cases that gave him a reprieve were not before the bench, as fears that Kithure Kindiki will be sworn in to replace him were evident, as earlier hinted by Kapseret MP Oscar Sudi. Joel Chacha now reports on the legal showdown witnessed that could possibly further derail the determination of who is the deputy president.
Minutes to 11 a.m. impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, accompanied by his son, close allies and a battery of lawyers, arrived at the Milimani locus before a three-judge bench empaneled to hear and determine his matters. Just a day after he sought to know how two cases that gave him a reprieve had made their way before Justices Eric Ogola, Anthony Mrima and Frida Mugambi, as speculations were directions will be given and possibly the ushering in of Kithure Kindiki as Deputy President. However, it was all but fears as the bench clarified the matter.
For the matters which were empaneled, and maybe they are not here, we presume they are not before us because we were not moved. We have handled the matters today because we were moved by an application.
The hearing of the petitions that were consolidated, however, did not commence as the legality of the bench was questioned by Gachagua's lawyers on Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu empaneling it and not Chief Justice Martha Koome.
Unless the Constitution is interpreted or amended to give the Chief Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice, the power to empanel a bench by express reading of the Constitution, she cannot be able to do that.
How, under what circumstances, the Chief Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice, authorize you to sit on a Saturday? Under what circumstances did the Chief Justice herself, Deputy Chief Justice herself, sit at night, in the wee hours of the night, ungodly hours, and constituted this bench?
The judiciary immune from the principle of transparency and accountability. It is not. If the Deputy Chief Justice makes such a consequential move as taking up the powers vested expressly in the Chief Justice, that's a matter she must, number one, expressly disclose by lodging it in the CTS for us to interact with. Number two, provide reasons for taking up that role.
The margin that justice must not only be done, it must manifestly be seen to be done, is an extension of the right to a fair trial guaranteed in Article 50.
The government side, led by Attorney General Dorcas Oduor, however, defended the move by the Chief Justice in a push and pull that consumed the entire day.
The Deputy Chief Justice cannot assign duties to judges. Pray, my lords, what then does the Deputy Chief Justice deputize?
The Judicial Service Act expressly provides, my lords, that the Chief Justice can deputize, or the Deputy Chief Justice will exercise the powers of the Chief Justice in the absence of the Chief Justice.
The court, which resumes tomorrow to address the preliminary objections raised, could take longer to determine petitions before it and also enjoining others, which could also translate to Gachagua remaining in office longer until the cases are heard and determined.
As a bench, we want to thank all counsel for the mature way in which we have conducted today's proceedings and the legal arguments which we have put. They are going to assist us to reach a decision which we shall render tomorrow at 3:30 p.m.
Joel Chacha, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Still on that, President William Ruto has a significant move in the ongoing legal battle surrounding the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Commenting on the matter for the first time, the head of state, through his lawyer, has filed a preliminary objection seeking to challenge the High Court's jurisdiction to hear the case. Now, this legal standoff adds another layer of complexity to the matter, as both Gachagua's impeachment and the nomination of Kithure Kindiki as his successor remain under heavy scrutiny. President William Ruto has taken a stance in the ongoing court battle involving the impeachment of his deputy Rigathi Gachagua. Through his lawyer Adrian Kamotho, the president has asked the High Court to dismiss the petition, arguing that it is an abuse of the court process and that the High Court does not have jurisdiction over the matter.
As a pending application, which is being filed, a preliminary objection, which even contests the jurisdiction of the High Court to hear the matters, because it is a matter relating to the exoneration of a presidential and overacting president, which in our view lies squarely within the domain of the Supreme Court. So we once afforded an opportunity procedurally, we shall ventilate all those issues, and hopefully the matters being raised or to be raised about refusal and so on, they will fall by the wayside.
He further asserts that under the Constitution, civil proceedings cannot be instituted against a sitting president regarding actions taken during their tenure.
The petitioners even wrongly enjoined the sixth respondent, His Excellency the President, when Article 143(2) is clear that no civil proceedings can be instituted against the President. A decision that has been affirmed by the Supreme Court in the decision of Attorney General and two others versus D and 79 others. So the Supreme Court made an express order that the president cannot be sued. It's an order. So the pleadings that have been lodged before this court have been filed in contempt of the Supreme Court decision.
Petitioners Peter Kamotho, David Madenge, Grace Mwangi, Clement Muriuki and Edwin Kariuki are challenging the legality of Gachagua's impeachment and the subsequent nomination of Kithure Kindiki as his replacement. They argue that the entire process was unconstitutional and politically motivated, calling on the courts to block Kindiki's swearing in until the case is heard and determined. President Ruto's lawyer, Adrian Kamotho, on the other hand, emphasized that the case should not proceed in the High Court, citing Article 140 of the Constitution, which vests the Supreme Court with the mandate to handle disputes related to the presidency and the electoral processes. Brian Amuai, K24, Nairobi. Now, security was beefed up at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations offices along Kiambu Road, where ousted DP Rigathi Gachagua was expected to honor summons. Now, the summons issued yesterday followed claims of attempted assassination by Gachagua. Now, claims that the Bureau termed as serious and needed to be investigated. Ian Ketani tells us more.
Kiambu Road, and heavy police presence was witnessed for the better part of the day. Law enforcers on standby alongside 2 water cannons in anticipation for the arrival of ousted Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. The water cannons signified the expectation that the troubled son of Mathira was to be accompanied by his supporters. The main entrance was also manned by a contingent of armed police officers. However, Gachagua was a no-show, the impeached DEP opting to attend court sessions at the Milimani Law Courts accompanied by his close allies.
The unfortunate turn of events.
Gachagua was invited to record his statement over claims of 2 attempted assassinations on 30th of August and 3rd September in Kisumu and Nyeri counties, respectively. The investigative agency cited the seriousness of the allegations made by Gachagua for the invitation, claiming that the matter ought to be investigated. Even as Gachagua skipped the invitation, staff working at his Harambee Annex offices were denied entry. According to reports, officers from the Rapid Deployment Unit had camped outside the premises on Tuesday as they turned away all staffers reporting to work. This comes just days after 108 staff working for the embattled ousted DEP was sent on compulsory leave in a memo signed by Principal Administrative Secretary Patrick Mwangi in a circular seen by K24 Tv. Mwangi further informed the Chief of Staff and advisors in the DP's office of the decision following Rigathi Gachagua's impeachment. The letter read in part, and I quote, "Following the ongoing constitutional process affecting the Deputy President, it has been decided that all officers in job groups T and U are to proceed on compulsory leave immediately."
During that particular time.
Addressing the press after being discharged from the Karen Hospital on Mashujaa Day, Gachagua decried efforts to cripple his office by sending home his staff, despite him still being the outright Deputy President.
To cripple the functions of my office, he ordered through the head of public service, Felix Koskei, that all officers in my office be sent on compulsory leave. Last night, all vehicles assigned to officers who work under me were impounded to cripple the office of the Deputy President. I don't understand this level of viciousness to a man who have been your deputy, who helped you to become president, irrespective of whatever he has done.
Ian Kitani, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Now, the High Court has ruled that the Affordable Housing Act of 2024 was properly enacted as per the Constitution. Now, as Busara Nama now reports, the ruling allows the government to continue with the program and to keep imposing the affordable housing levy that is currently at the rate of 1.5% of the gross salary.
In a ruling delivered by a 3-judge bench comprising Justice Olga Sewe, John Chigiti and Josephine Mongare, the High Court rejected a petition filed by Busia Senator Okiya Omtata, activist Eliud Matindi and Katiba Institute. Some of the issues raised by the petitioners were that the Housing Levy Act is unconstitutional, discriminative, it didn't undergo public participation, it offends devolution, infringes Article 43(1) of the Constitution, which guarantees the right to housing, and that it is double taxing Kenyans. However, in its ruling today, the court ruled that the act is constitutional and that there was adequate public participation.
Having acknowledged that the predominant issue is whether the provisions of the Affordable Housing Act are in conflict with the Constitution, it is our considered view that that doctrine of avoidance is inapplicable.
It cannot be denied from the foregoing that the public participation was conducted. As shown, the National Assembly and the Senate focused on very targeted and specific stakeholders, in particular the petitioners. We note that the petitioners took issue with the fact that the public participation for an act that was intended to affect all Kenyans was only conducted in 19 counties.
On claims of discrimination, the court ruled that the levy does not unfairly burden Kenyans as alleged by the petitioners.
The levy and the fact that it has been set at 1.5 of the gross salary was an infringement of Article 40, Sub-Article 1 and 2 of the right to property. And we have cited Article 40, Sub-Article 1 and 2, which says protection of the right to property. Subject to Article 65, every person has the right, either individually or in association with others, to acquire and own property.
On claims that the housing levy infringes Article 43(1) of the Constitution, which guarantees the right to housing, Justice Chigiti added that the purpose of the Act is to provide a legal framework for affordable housing programs, stating that Section 3 and 4 of the Act did not infringe Article 43(1) of the Constitution, which guarantees the right to housing. The court also noted that the National Assembly holds the authority to determine how taxes are calculated, imposed, and collected under Article 95 of the Constitution.
Having looked at the sections, we are of the view that the Act does not offend the principle of devolution because the Affordable Housing Board under Section 16 has representation, both national and county government, from both national and county government.
On March 19th, President William Ruto signed into law the Affordable Housing Bill 2023, paving the way for reinstatement of the contentious housing levy deductions. The legislation ropes in workers in the informal sector to make sure the regulations are in agreement with the High Court's ruling that rendered it unconstitutional last year. Under the law, Kenyans will continue being deducted 1.5% of their gross monthly pay. Busara Naman, K24 TV.
Now, stop denying services to Kenyans, yet you have signed contracts with the Social Health Authority. These are the words of Health Principal Secretary Harry Kimtai, who has warned the hospitals of dire consequences, further assuring the public that the rollout of the Social Health Authority will continue despite the challenges facing it during its implementation stages, including matters pending bills, service provision, among others. Robbie Omondi now reports.
Speaking in Mombasa, Health Principal Secretary Harry Kimtai noted that some hospitals were denying patients services, yet they had signed contracts with the Social Health Authority, warning of dire consequences.
Because there are those who are giving us excuses. They said the system was not working properly, some very flimsy excuses.
Kimtai says the ministry will be publishing the over 700,000 facilities which signed contracts to offer services to Kenyans without a bias.
Anybody who has not registered in that system, then we shall know that you are not registered. That's when you can ask for cash. But as long as you have accepted and you have signed a contract that you will provide service under the social health, there should be no reason as to why you again discriminate.
He further stated that they have formed a committee consisting of members of the county and the national government who will be mandated to oversee the implementation.
The community health promoters and the village elders will go to each and every household to ensure that all the households are registered. This is because we realize that most of the households are not registered. We've trained the CHPs for the purpose of what's called assisted registration. For those who do not have phones, for those who cannot access the phones or the cyber caves, they will be able to register from the household or from their own homesteads.
On matters pending bills, the PS noted that the government has already initiated payments of accrued bills inherited from NHIF as directed by the President during the Mashujaa celebrations.
We have started to pay not only the faith-based, we have started to pay all the facilities. Last week, we released 1.5 billion Kenya shillings. This week, as directed by His Excellency in his Mashujaa Day speech, he directed that another 3 billion Kenya shillings to be released this week to be paid to the outstanding bills that we owe the faith-based, public, and the private hospitals. So the government gives its commitment that they will continue reducing the outstanding debts to a level where nobody will be having any debt. Going forward, we have also made sure that within the new system, we should not exceed more than 90 days claims that are pending.
To this end, the government is still calling on Kenyans to register with the authority to enable them access health services.
The system will pick based on where you are most of the time, not necessarily from where you keyed in the details.
Robbie Omondi, K24.
Now, over 965,000 students sitting for the KCSE exams this year will receive their digital identity Maisha number cards before completing their papers. Now, according to Immigration Principal Secretary Julius Bitok, the move will streamline the process of applying for funding when they join higher learning institutions. Furthermore, the identity cards will be issued within 10 days to citizens, with the expectation that all Kenyans will have Maisha number cards within 5 years. As Harriet Chimea now reports, Kenyans will incur a fee of 300 shillings to obtain the cards.
9,605,000 students sitting for their KCSE exams this year will receive the digital identity Maisha number cards before finishing their exams.
We have deployed them in all our schools around the country. We are targeting to register all our 965 students in school this year. When you apply now, within 3-4 days, it's been printed. And within another 5 days, it is shipped to the place where you applied from.
However, those under 18 will still use birth certificates or either their KCSE index numbers to obtain their identity cards. According to Immigration PS Julius Bitok, the government has a plan to ensure that all citizens receive identity numbers within 5 years, promising that issuance will happen within 10 days.
We have not explicitly said within 5 years the current ID would not be useful. We have only said we have given ourselves time, and we wanted to move it, we wanted the transition to be as smooth as possible. We still use the same ID number. It's only that you'll get a document, or rather an ID, which is more secure, that you'll be sure that nobody can take away your land, nobody can take away your money in the bank account, nobody can change your SIM card without your authority. And when you have this card, you don't need anything else. You don't need a driving license, you don't need an NHIF. This card will do everything else when you are in Kenya.
To obtain the Maisha card, a citizen will pay 300 shillings, and if they need to replace the card, they will incur a cost of 1,000 shillings, unlike the current free status.
But fresh applications are 300. The cost of one ID, to produce one ID, is 600. So the government is subsidizing up to 50% of the ID. People applying for IDs daily has risen to 20,000, to 10,000, up from about 6,000, 7,000 daily. So we don't see any negative impact of the increase in the cost, because these are documents you need.
1.8 million citizens have so far received Maisha number cards, while 966,000 are being processed. Another 569,914 have yet to be collected by their owners. Harriet Chimea, K24.
All right, now that report by Harriet Chimea takes us to our first week here on the program. When we come back, of course, we'll be taking a look at what you're waking up to as far as the newspapers are concerned. And I'll be speaking to my panel here in studio to try and get to understand, make sense of the news today. Of course, Honorable Robert Basil, thank you so much for making time.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. It's been a minute. How have you been? You know, this nation, the way it's...
we are swallowed by what's going on between the deputy president and the president.
And the president. And,
the country. So
it started from your house. It started
sometimes you're not sure. Are you doing the right thing or what's going on? Because when you go back, like I was telling you, my constituency is cosmopolitan. They are like a mix of many tribes. So there are those who want Rigathi to be saved. There are those who want Rigathi to be off the hook.
So how do you balance that with your constituents?
That is why I kept off. I never voted.
No,
because the idea is not, she was telling me I might try to be like indecisive. No. But then
you refuse to be branded watermelon.
People used to use that tag for His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka. But I can tell you, Kalonzo is not the watermelon. The real watermelon, we know who it is.
You're not doing justice
because
to
your
party.
You see,
thank you.
No, you know, sometimes in politics, like when you are a parent, you are here, let's say you are solving a case. One side of your group, they are saying this, the other side is like this. So you become like parents, where you are in between, you say, I don't see any problem with these two people, they are all the same, and then you wash your hands.
You wash your hands.
And then you tell the citizens,
of course,
do what you want to do.
We'll come back and talk about whether that is a safe, that is safe for any member of parliament.
No, it's not about.
Okay, it's not. Yes. It's not a gender card. Of course, Mariam Kitani, how are people of Valdai?
People of Valdai are very happy. They are good, and they are looking forward to a stable country. We actually need to move forward. Yes.
Okay, so we'll talk about that and how exactly do we move forward from everything that is happening right now. Yesterday we had in the corridors of justice one senior counsel saying it's a time for the nation to start healing. So that process, where does it start?
Yes.
Do we now see forgiveness, or how do we look at it? Of course, that's a conversation that you are coming back with here on New Dawn. Continue engaging us on our socials, Satamoi Brian at K24 TV across social media platforms. Tell us exactly what you think about the state of the nation and what is happening as far as politics and the law is concerned, especially with issues to do with the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. We'll be back in a moment.